Today I'm going to show you how we break down a lamb in Ireland, basically down into its primal cuts. I'm not going to break it down into chops and that because, to be perfectly honest with you, it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm quite tired and I want to go home. But I have to chop up a lamb down into primals to hang in our inside cold room, and I said, you know what, I've got my new little fuzzy muff mic, there you are, which hopefully will have cleared up the audio recording issues of when I'm jiggling around. So let's take it for a test drive with a lamb. As ever, if you like this kind of thing, please give us a like, a comment and a follow. It just helps the algorithm, and I'd like to get paid for doing this. That'd be the dream. But either way, I just want to share with you the beauty of butchery. So follow me for more sexy butcher content and let's get down to it. Okay, so here we have our full lamb, Latin name Lammus lammus. I don't know the Latin name, God bless you if you actually thought I did, but it's a lamb. This is the neck, and this is the ass. Oh, don't know why I did that. It is missing is two shanks, just because I had a customer in looking for lamb shanks, and I went poaching because I want to make money. So, let's begin. First thing we're going to do is break the breastbone. This is just a personal thing with me, really. I always like to break the breastbone first. I think the main reason is because when I was training as a butcher and we had a laboratory around the back, when we were killing the animals, we would actually break the breastbone while we were gutting them out. So it's just preference. Now, next thing I want to do is take the fore end off. So that's where you're getting your shoulder and your jigga chops here in Ireland, and also you'll have a portion of your neck. So to do that, you have to crack in here. You'll see all those rib bones in there. And what you do there is you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Some people break it on the 4th, some break it on the 5th. Whichever one you're going to break it on, you go between those two. Up she goes. And then on the other side, and they meet. Then we get our bone saw. When we're sawing, we always want to put our thumb over the back of the saw, because when it hits bones, it can jump and go over the back of your hand and you're not going to have a good time. So we're through that, down. Now we're going to saw through the backbone of the animal. That's her there. We'll hang our saw up. And now the old steak knife. And there we go. As you can see, that is your fore end. So it's your shoulder section here, and then these would be your jiggy chops. So if this was beef, that'd be your chuck. Throw that over there. Now, next thing I like to do is take the breasts and the laps off. Breast can also be called lap, it can be called lamb ribs. With any of these things, there's a million different names for them. Some people will like to cut them fairly short. I like to cut them down fairly tight. I don't like to leave a big tail on the chops. I just think you're paying a premium price for the chops, so that's why. So we've hit the rib bones there, and we're just going to travel down till we're just above the blade bone. Same thing is going to apply. Saw through it. You'll notice I don't have my finger over it just because my hand is so far out of the way. Now we're going to repeat the procedure on the other side. The only difference between me and a surgeon really is, well, a surgeon gets paid a hell of a lot more, has better hours, I was going to say hours, and my patients don't sue. You can kind of see it a bit better here. I'm not going to go too fast because if I do a speed run on it, yeah, it might look cool, but you're going to learn nothing. So, these here are the breasts. Now, first thing you'll notice is they ain't breasts like Pamela Anderson breasts, big and juicy. Showing my age there. Basically, kind of like your short ribs, very little meat, a lot of fat. Lamb is an inherently fatty meat, but by God, the flavor. Do these low and slow. I suppose a better way of actually describing it is it's like the brisket. That's the breastbone there. by God, when you get these crisp, oh my God, so good, amazing. Now, so we'll just throw them out of the way. Now, hang the saw up, just to keep things nice, neat and tidy. So, this section here is your rack of lamb on either side. This is the backbone. And these two big balls of fat, they're not what you might think they are when we talk about big balls. They are actually the kidneys. See the kidneys in there? Kidneys are always encased in fat. And if anything, this is proof that a vegan diet won't do shit for your kidneys. Because this fella's just been eating grass and look how much fat is around his kidneys. Now, take this one out. That's just a little bit of liver. Sometimes when they're taking the liver out, they can leave a bit behind. Legs, loins, and racks. Next thing we'll do is take the legs off. A couple of different ways. You can judge it by the tailbone in there, or when I was training to be a butcher, we would feel for the bone here and then just go the other side of it. So, feck it, I'll do it that way for old time's sake. There we are. We're down towards the bone. Get the saw, thumb over the back. Saw through that further mucker. Hang up our saw and take our legs off. Next, we will split our legs in half. So, first thing we're going to do, get rid of this cord. Now, so that's the tail, that's its poo chute, and these are the legs. So we just do a quick cut down through here and give her the old porn star special, which is just brute force and ignorance. Now, it's at this stage that, if we didn't already know, we can tell whether this was a boy lamb or a girl lamb. Because if it's a boy lamb, the urethra will be running in here, which us Irish butchers euphemistically call the piss pipe. So that's your legs there. We'll tidy them up, take some of the heavy fat off before we sell them. But because they're going to be hanging in the fridge, we'll leave that fat on because it's going to protect the meat. So 2 legs of lamb. Nowadays, probably enough for a down payment on a house, the way the price of lamb is. Now, next, we'll separate the racks from the loins. This here is just a little bit of skirt that's hanging around. If you were talking about beef, that is the hanger steak, otherwise known in Ireland as back steak. We don't really have a name for it in lamb, just because it's so tiny, it just goes for lamb mince. So, again, counting the ribs. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ribs. I split between the 4th and the 5th. That's how I know I have 9 ribs in my rack. So, basically what we want to do, count down along, reach the bottom one, cut the other side of it until we hit spinal cord, and we're going to saw through that bitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, so that's where it is. I hope I'm not boring you by going so slow with this, but as I say, I think you'll learn more if I go slow. In a lot of ways, it's actually harder for me to go slow. I actually, funnily enough, have to think about it a bit more. Whereas on autopilot, it takes the thinking out of it. Now, that's her. And then, I'm gonna repeat the procedure on the other side. There we are, cut that. Now, 2 racks of lamb. Call that a rack saddle. To me, a saddle though is the loin part together like that. You may have heard of Barnsley chop. They sell them in England. That's basically the 2 loin chops together, cross cut. Saddle, you may have heard of saddle where they bone it out and stuff it and roll it up. These here are our racks. This here is the backbone. Spinal cord's in there. And what we want to do is just cut it down the middle. Now the bone on the lamb is actually so soft I can crack it with my hand. Yeah, that's not true. You're gonna need a saw. On younger animals, you will generally be able to go through bones with a good heavy steak knife, but that's not great for your knife, and there's a risk of a bit of splintering. Get your thumb in there. What did he say? Your hand in the gap just helps kind of move the bone out of the way of your saw. And then we are left with 2 racks. There we are. On the outside of the lamb, there is this skin called bark. You really want to remove that when the time comes to buy your lamb. Again, it's just a little bit young at the moment, so the bark is still kind of pliable, but once this ages for another probably 5 days, it'll peel off in one go and you won't be left with that chewy skin on your chops. You can leave that in one piece as a rack of lamb. Average serving size is about 3 chops per person. You will have heard of French trimmed. French trim would be where we basically just cut this meat off and then expose the tips of the rib bones. Not doing that now because I want to go to bed. I have a plan. I'm going to have chicken wings and it's going to be amazing. Now, one thing I've always struggled with since the very first day I became a butcher, or an apprentice butcher, is splitting these. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, the shop is called Keith Grant Master Butchers. The page is called Keith Grant Master Butchers. How can you be a master butcher if you still struggle with that? Because I'm honest. I hate doing it. What you want is to split it evenly down the middle so you have even parts, spinal cord on both sides. This and boning out chunks of beef are 2 jobs I've hated since day 1. Anyway, let's do it. On a bandsaw it's kind of easier because it just go. I'm not charging you extra for the sound effects. So we look for basically the tailbone. There's tailbone. And then we know straight down here, you can make a little bit of a, you can expose this fat to kind of leave a better happy trail for your knife. But as I say, you just always want to check. Worst part about doing these videos is doing them and then realizing your saw needs a new blade. It slows things down. Moment of truth. Have I got it perfect on both sides? Steak knife. Make the cut. Yeah, even part spinal cord on both sides. I'll take that. Woohoo! These are called centerloin chops in Ireland. Centerloin are basically like your T-bone steaks. So beneath this fat will be the fillet, and this top bit here would be your strip loin. This here we call side loin. It's the equivalent of sirloin steak. You might call it rump steak if you're in a different country. I will leave those 2 in a piece. Now, we want to split this similar to the way we split that, even parts right the way down. So it's kind of a similar thing. You know, I actually never mark it with a knife. I don't know why I did that. So again, same thing. These are the bones. These and these. These bones here are the worst for making your saw jump. So you always want to put your hand, your thumb, your fingy over the back. And you'll hear the difference. You won't, but I will. You'll hear when you're through the bone. Just the tone of the saw changes. There we are. Boom, goes the dynamite. Now, just to show you, I will separate a shoulder from a jigget. The way we do that here in Ireland is we feel for the bone where the 2 bones join, and we go for the middle, for that crevasse. So there's the crevasse. And then we look where the blade bone is, and we basically draw an itty bitty line. Again, saw. There we go. It's your shoulder of lamb. You're really only going to feed about 3, maybe 4 people at a push of your shoulder of lamb. These are the rib bones. You would lift these rib bones out. Traditionally, you'd have your shank there. You'd crack your shank, tuck it back underneath and tie it all together. Amazing flavor if you just give it the time. You gotta have patience. These here are your jigga chops. So you can see how it looks a bit like the chuck now. You basically cut into little chops. That is your essential ingredient for a traditional Irish stew. I believe the Aussies actually barbecue them. I suppose down to what kind of weather you're getting. And that is how we break down a lamb into primal cuts here in Ireland. If you enjoyed it, make sure like, comment, subscribe, and what the hell, share. See you next time.